sir.
Afternoon. Right. So continuing our discussion from yesterday about opioid analgesics, today we'll go over the classification of opioid analgesics. Yesterday I told you what are opioid receptors and what are the types of pain. So that is where we left off. You have three main receptors which are mu, kappa and delta, and upon stimulation of those receptors you will have analgesic function, right? Profound analgesia, very strong type of analgesia. When we talk about classification of opioid analgesics, now in some textbooks you'll find it a little variable one way or the other. Okay, I'll try to keep it as rounded as possible. Now you have three main categories. Okay, you will have natural what do you call natural opium alkaloids. See, all of this comes from a plant called opium. That is how morphine took its origin. You get a plant called opium poppy, and from that opium poppy you get alkaloids. From those alkaloids you will derive certain compounds. One of those compounds is morphine. So if I take opium and I try to extract compounds from that, I will get morphine, I will get codeine, I will get noscapine, I will get papaverin, I will get thebaine. All of these have some or the other analgesic activity, but thebaine does not have. But morphine and codeine at least very strong analgesic activity, specifically morphine. Right. So classification of opioids will also be something in that, in those lines. Okay. So you can put it this way: if it is, let's suppose, the first category will be agonists. Yeah. This is based on a receptor occupation. Okay, you can have it based on your origin, you can have it based on whether or not they are natural or synthetic or semi-synthetic. This is based on the receptor occupation. So agonists are those opioid analgesics which will directly cause an agonistic function, where it will directly stimulate the receptor. Here you have natural opium analgesics or natural opium alkaloids. So this will include your morphine, it will have codeine, there is noscapine, right? So these are natural products. Then you have synthetic. Now in some textbooks you will have semi-synthetic as well. Chalta, synthetic, semi-synthetic. Semi-synthetic generally you will not have. Semi-synthetic agar aaya to you have heroin in semi-synthetic. Okay. Synthetic is something that is completely formed in a lab using the scale of morphine. So you get a product which is similar to morphine, but it is completely made in the lab. Right? So synthetic opioids will include pethidine. You will have methadone, and fentanyl. Okay, so these are synthetic opioids. Then you have another class called mixed agonists. Not as strong function as proper agonists, but they do have some analgesic activity. These will include your pentazocin, sorry. Uh, it will have buprenorphine and nalbuphine. Okay, these many are enough. So these are some examples. You will have also antagonistic drugs that does not exactly fall in opioid analgesics. They are antagonists. So in case there is some poisoning or something because of these opioid analgesics, you will use antagonistic drugs. They will not fall in this classification, but you need to know those antagonistic agents. So your primary agent will be naloxone. You can also use naltrexone. Naltrexone. Okay, these are specifically given if what do you call, if you have poisoning of the if the patient has opium poisoning. So you have to keep in mind about opium poisoning, because especially if it is morphine. So let's suppose there is something called patient controlled analgesia. I'm not sure whether you've seen this or not. Have you guys ever worked in a cancer ward, like terminal cancer ward or any cancer ward? Any one of you?
No,
No, no.
sir.
नो वन. अच्छा, तो कैंसर वार्ड में क्या करते हैं, स्पेशली डेबिलिटेटिंग, नॉट जस्ट कैंसर वार्ड. लेट्स सपोज देयर इज अ पेशेंट who is under a lot of pain, okay, pain to an extent that only opioid analgesics can work, and that too can only decrease the pain to a certain extent, not completely decrease the pain, meaning the patient will still be feeling pain. If I give morphine to a normal person, they will faint. Okay, that is the effect of morphine. It is a very very strong analgesic. So in those patients, even though they are not knocked out, they will still be feeling the pain. Okay, so you give something called patient controlled analgesia. They will have the control over the dose of what you call morphine, but obviously you need to keep monitoring it very closely. You will keep a limit to which how much amount of morphine can come every minute. Okay, the drip of morphine that can come, but even with that you have to be very careful with toxicity, because toxicity of morphine can lead to severe consequences. In that sense, you have to be ready with these antagonistic agents. As soon as you see signs of what do you call morphine poisoning, you can immediately induce IV naloxone. You can inject naloxone, and what do you call it will basically act as an antidote for morphine poisoning. Okay, that is why you need to know antagonistic agents. Now, coming to our primary drug, which is the most important one in all of opioids, is morphine. Because based on morphine, every other opioid will be what formed. Or you can also tell that every opioid analgesic that you see will be a copy of morphine, or it will be compared to morphine. So think of morphine as the ideal student in the class of opioid analgesics. Okay, simple to understand. uh, what it does is this fellow will go and stimulate your opioid receptors. Specifically, it will go and bind to the opioid receptors, all the three types of opioid receptors, mu, kappa, and delta. I'll just write the mechanism of action. This is one drug that we'll discuss in somewhat detail. The rest of them are copies of morphine, or at least they are similar to morphine. So the slight variations, the mechanism of action will be the same, right? So what this does is it binds to opioid receptors and it blocks transmission of nociceptive signals. Okay. It will also inhibit primary afferent response, from nociceptors to your dorsal hall sensory cells. इसका मतलब क्या है? Now, when we talk about mechanism of action of morphine, it is first binding to the opioid receptors. Opioid receptor को bind हुआ बोले तो it will what you call cause analgesia. First function, okay. It will immediately start the what you call function of analgesia, where it is causing sedation, euphoria. You know, all the functions where that you get whenever you stimulate mu, kappa, and delta receptors. So analgesia पहले होता. Second function, it will block transmission of nociceptive signals. Nociceptive signals are pain signals, meaning let's suppose I have some area in my body. Let's suppose morphine is used for chronic debilitating conditions. Okay, so let's suppose I have a patient and उनके stomach में से or some internal organ में से, let's suppose spleen or in their liver, there is some serious cancer or some condition inside, visceral pain. Okay, dull but very very severe kind of pain. In that condition, you are giving morphine. Now let's suppose this is the spot from where pain is, or this is a spot where pain is occurring. Okay, from here the pain signal will be sent to your spinal cord. From your spinal cord it will go to your brain, and from your brain you get a response to the what do you call the body. Basically यहाँ पर आपको pain हो रहा, ठीक है, you will not directly be able to feel pain as such. यहाँ से first signal should go to your spinal cord, then to your brain. That is when you'll register that sensation as pain. Okay, that kind of response needs to go. That response is called nociceptive signal. Okay, the pain signal. So अब आप समझो, you what do you call try to touch something which is very hot. Okay, this is a reaction that occurs within milliseconds. Okay, so you will generally not able to find what you call disparity, or you will not be able to find distinguishing between when you are touching something hot versus when you feel pain. It might be immediate, but you see, if you see it on a very microscopic level, what is happening is the pain receptors that are present on your pain receptors are nociceptors. Okay, pain receptors that are present on your finger, let's suppose you are trying to, or you accidentally touch something hot, they will first register the injury on your finger. All right, that signal goes through your the peripheral neurons to your spinal cord. From your spinal cord, first sensory input jara, it will go all the way to your brain. In your brain, this information is relayed to your motor cortex, wherein motor cortex will stimulate your effector muscles, and you will immediately move your hand. Okay, that is the reflex that happens within a fraction of a second. Okay, but all of this is happening in that time. When we talk about visceral pain, or when we talk about what you call debilitating, very serious pain, in that condition the same response is occurring where you are feeling pain. Initially there is some site of causation, at one particular site there is pain. From there, that pain is going, the signal of pain at least is going to your brain through your spinal cord, and you are registering that feeling as pain. Okay, what morphine does is it will block that signal. It will not let that signal go. If I'm blocking the signal itself, you will not be able to feel pain. Right, in theory you will not be able to feel pain, because you are not registering that sensation as pain at all. Your brain does not register that sensation at all. There is no signal going to your brain, hence there is no feeling of pain. That is what morphine does. That is another function of morphine. So the last function is the same. Okay, it will inhibit primary afferent response. Afferent responses are those that will go to the brain. Efferent responses are the ones that will come out of the brain. So in the example that I gave you, where you are touching a hot substance through your hand, the afferent response A, okay, afferent response is the one that is going from your finger to your brain. Okay, efferent response is what comes from your brain to the muscles of your hand to move. All right, it'll what you call cause contraction of your muscles in your wrist and as well as your complete hand, and you will what you call move your finger away from that particular location. All right, that is efferent response. The motor response is efferent in this case. All right, I hope you understood the concept. Kya ho raha hai idhar? All of you, please feel free to ask doubts. So one second. That is the mechanism of action of your morphine. Now, iske aage, there are pharmacological functions of your morphine. What does it do in your body? Now, blocking this kind of signal and doing this kind of analgesic function, what happens to your body? That we'll study in pharmacological functions or pharmacological actions. Depending on different systems, you will have different actions. Okay, so if I talk about CNS, okay, first, let's suppose I'm talking about CNS. In CNS, it will cause obviously analgesia. Okay, it will basically cause depressive actions, in the sense that it will depress your CNS. You will have analgesia, you will have sedation, you will have respiratory depression. Okay, respiratory depression तो उसमें लगाएंगे. You have mood swings, mood and subjective effects. Mood and subjective effects here refers to basically the patient becomes calmer. Okay, or the patient will have loss of apprehension. They will not be as afraid to do something. Okay, to put it simply, loss of apprehension is what happens when someone drinks alcohol. Okay, they will lose their boundaries. Okay, if someone drinks a lot of alcohol, they will do stupid things because they lose that sense of fear, or they will lose the in this sense, apprehension is basically they are afraid of doing something, and taking this drug or taking that substance will cause loss of apprehension. The same way morphine will cause loss of apprehension. That will be a subjective effect. Okay, it will cause lack of initiation, so the patient would not want to start something. Okay, any particular idea or a task, it will cause lack of initiation or initiative function. And it can also cause mental clouding. You will not be able to think straight. That is all part of mood and subjective effects. But for addicts, people who are addicts, see, morphine is a very, it has a very strong potential for abuse, and it can, people can get addicted to it very, very easily. So for addicts, it will cause euphoria. In addicts, it causes euphoria. All right. Other than this, it will also cause depression of your cough center. Depression of cough center. What happens if your cough center is depressed? Your respiratory rate will fall. The depth of respiration will decrease. You'll not breathe in as deeply, and you will, the rate at which you breathe, that might also get affected. Other than that, so because of this, you can also tell that respiratory depression occurs. Okay. Then temperature regulatory center gets depressed. Temperature regulatory center gets depressed. Your temperature regulatory system, which is present in your thalamus, hypothalamus, sorry, that fellow, when it gets depressed, you will have hypothermia. The patient's body temperature will fall. Temperature regulatory. Okay. Your respiratory center is present in your medulla oblongata. It's a small nucleus that is present in your medulla oblongata. I hope you remember what is your medulla oblongata. In your medulla oblongata, it will cause depression of that nucleus, because of which you will have respiratory depression, or the patient will have respiratory depression. Other than this, your morphine will also do another thing. Morphine stimulates CTZ. Ever came across the word CTZ? I'm sure physiology में पढ़े होंगे ना? Something related to vomiting. What is CTZ? This fellow is also present in your medulla oblongata. No idea. Guess. Okay, your CTZ is basically a chemo trigger zone. Okay, it is a emetic center that is present in your medulla oblongata that controls nausea and vomiting. So if I stimulate your CTZ, it will cause nausea and vomiting. It will, what it will do is, if you stimulate your CTZ of a patient, it will in turn stimulate emetic center. If emetic center is stimulated, it will cause retroperistalsis in your stomach. Specifically, it will cause retroperistalsis, in the sense peristalsis will occur in the opposite direction. Okay, peristalsis is a motion of your GIT, so that the contents of your what you call bowel, or the contents that you consume, should go down rather than coming up. If you stimulate the emetic center, the opposite thing will happen. So retroperistalsis will occur, because of which both nausea and vomiting occur. Okay, I'm abbreviating it as NNV. It will also cause another thing. So besides causing nausea and vomiting, morphine causes meiosis, pupil constriction. Especially if someone is having what you call morphine poisoning, they will have pinpoint pupils. So they'll be very, very, very constricted. Okay, that is one sign that you can look for in patients, whether or not, whether if you want to check if the patient is having morphine poisoning or not. If they are undergoing morphine poisoning, they will have pinpoint pupils. Okay, and it can cause bradycardia. So these are all the effects that your morphine will have on your CNS. On your neuroendocrine system, now this fellow will cause hypothalamic activity on your pituitary, where because of which your FSH, your LH, your ACTH levels, all of them will decrease. So follicle stimulating hormone decreases, luteinizing hormone decreases, adrenocorticotropic hormone decreases, right? And another thing, basically this, इसकी वजह से क्या होता है, pituitary activity decreases. Pituitary activity decreases. If pituitary activity decreases, FSH, LH, and ACTH decreases. But pituitary has an inhibitory effect whenever pituitary vertical gland is in effect, or if it is working properly, whenever it is stimulated, it has an inhibitory function on growth hormone and prolactin. So whenever I am trying to, I suppress pituitary because of whatever reason, either through a drug or through a diseased condition, here through a drug, morphine is going and decreasing the activity of your pituitary gland. If pituitary gland's activity decreases, FSH, and ACTH, no doubt their levels will dip, but growth hormone and prolactin, so I'll just write PCL, their levels will increase because GH and PCL, prolactin, these fellows are under inhibitory control, meaning normally whenever your pituitary is working, it will inhibit the what you call secretion of growth hormone and PCL, meaning whenever I'm stopping the function of pituitary gland, that inhibitory function is released, or there is lack of inhibitory function, meaning growth hormone and PCL will increase. Prolactin, okay, I'll just write it prolactin in case you get confused. Okay, prolactin levels increase, that will happen. All right, so third function, please feel free to stop me at any time if you are having doubts, because I keep going at this speed thinking that you are understanding. If you do not understand, then please feel free to stop me at any time. Right. Coming to CVS, cardiovascular system, it will cause vasodilation because morphine causes the release of histamine. If histamine is released, that itself is a vasodilator. Okay, it will also cause depression of your vasomotor center. If vasomotor center is depressed, what will happen is blood vessel tone decreases. Okay. This can in turn, if gone unchecked, this can affect your BP as well. It will decrease eventually if this is not kept in check. Okay, so it will cause vasodilation through histamine release, and it will depress your vasomotor center, because of which your blood vessel tone of your blood vessel, your blood vessel has smooth muscles, right? Uska tone kam ho jata. If the tone of your smooth muscles which are present around your blood vessel decreases, your BP will eventually fall. On your GIT, it causes constipation. Morphine is very, very notorious to cause constipation, and there is no development of tolerance in this, meaning even addicts will face constipation. No matter how much amount of see, some effects you will get tolerant to, like after a while it will not give as much analgesia. So let's suppose someone is what do you call, if we compare two people who is opioid naive are those patients who have not been given any opioid drugs. Okay, opioid naive bolte हैं लोगों को. So you have opioid naive patients and opioid naive patients, and you have patients who have been on opioids for a long period of time. Okay, chronic opioid patients. In opioid naive patients, you might have to give a smaller dose to get the same effect, to get a certain amount of analgesia. In patients who have already been taking opioid for a long period of time, in then the amount of dose that needs to be given to get the same amount of analgesia will be much more higher. Because of tolerance, the patient develops tolerance over time. That is why, think of it like this: people who drink alcohol or people who smoke, they need to do more and more of it to get the same effect. Okay, even if it is a drug abuser, they need to take a lot of drug to get the same effect that they did when they took the drug for the first time. When they take the drug for the first time, like completely the first time, at that time a small dose of the drug itself will cause a lot of effect. Okay, versus if they are taking for the 100th time, suppose, okay, after a year of continuous use of the drug, even if it is like alcohol or smoking, you will have to use a lot more of the same dose to get the same effect. Okay, now if now you understood, that is tolerance. But one effect that is spared from tolerance, or one effect that does not develop tolerance, is constipation. Constipation will be constant throughout all patients, even in addicts, because morphine has a function of decreasing propulsive movement. It will cause spasms of your pylorus, spasms of your pyloric, your ileocecal, and your anal sphincters. When all of these sphincters undergo spasm, it will cause constipation. Okay, you will not be able to perform proper peristalsis. Gastrointestinal secretion decrease because of what you call your morphine, and in turn it will cause a lot of constipation. Sometimes you'll have to give a drug to cure constipation itself in patients who are taking morphine. It can be used in diarrhea though. If someone is having diarrhea, in that I'm not telling that every time someone is having diarrhea you can give morphine. I'm telling in patients who are already on morphine and they are having diarrhea, then you might not need to give another anti-diarrheal drug, because morphine itself will cause, or it will counteract the effect of diarrhea because it is causing constipation. That is one tricky use that the advantageous way that you can use morphine. Now, other than this, morphine can also cause urinary urgency. So, because the tone of the sphincter increases, urinary sphincter, the patient will have a lot of urgency while urinating. It might prolong labor a little bit if given in mothers. We have to be very, very careful when you are giving it in pregnant women. One thing is this fellow will easily penetrate through placenta. Another thing is if you are giving a pregnant woman, especially during labor, if you give them morphine, what will happen is the baby can come out with apnea. They will not be able to breathe properly. All right, they'll not be able to breathe at all. Especially if they are unconscious, they'll not be able to breathe. Okay, a temporary cessation of breathing, that is apnea. It can also cause bronchoconstriction because histamine is being released. Histamine causes bronchoconstriction. We already studied that in what do you call your asthma and all of that. Histamine causes bronchoconstriction, and morphine can also cause mild hyperglycemia. So be careful of it. Be careful of using morphine in diabetic patients. Those are pharmacological functions of your morphine. Coming to ADME of morphine, this fellow has, or let me put it this way: the oral bioavailability, oral F is bioavailability of morphine is 1/6 to 1/4 of IV dose of parenteral dose. Meaning, if you give a parenteral dose versus if you give an oral dose, the effect that you get from oral dose will be 1/6 or 1/4 of the parenteral dose. All right, it will be that much more less because it gets degenerated in your GIT. In that sense, what you do is you will always give morphine parenterally. Okay, because most of the drug is lost. If 1/6 or 1/4 of the drug is lost, at least you are losing around 25% of the drug. That is not good. So you give it parenterally. All right. Another thing is this fellow will have 30% plasma binding capacity. So it is 30% plasma bound, plasma protein bound. Not a lot, but still significant, because a small dose of morphine itself can cause a lot of effect. Even 30% of plasma protein binding will have significant effects. Morphine can easily cross placenta, crosses placenta. Use wisely in pregnant women. Okay, especially if you are giving it to a pregnant woman in case of labor or something, and the newborn is having apnea, you can immediately inject naloxone in the umbilical cord, okay, for treatment. So you give around 10 micrograms per kg of the baby. So your antidote will be naloxone, 10 micrograms per kg body weight. So you don't immediately cut off the placenta. If the patient of the vertical baby is having apnea, you let the placenta be and you inject inside the placenta. All right. You will inject according to the weight of the baby, not weight of the baby, not the weight of the mother. Okay. The patient will die. The patient being the kya bolte, baby here. If that baby is not able to breathe properly, you will inject 10 micrograms per kg body weight of the baby. Okay. In the umbilical cord. Right. So generally it should be avoided altogether in pregnant women, even in what you call labor. But in case if you are giving, keep naloxone ready. Okay, because agar toxicity hui to it can be very complicated. Patient can die before you are able to treat them. Okay. Another important thing about morphine is the T half of this morphine is around 2 to 3 hours, not very long. It will stay for a very long, short period of time. Parenteral drug will last for a little bit longer. Parenteral drug can last for 6 hours, almost 4 to 6 hours. All right. So these are some important effects of your morphine and ADME of your morphine. Coming to ADE, adverse effects, it will cause lethargy, it will cause coma, can cause coma or stupor. It can cause shallow breathing, shallow and occasional breathing, because related with all the pharmacological actions. If there is any excessive dose or if there is any adverse event, then all the normal functions of morphine will be dialed to 10, meaning normal function will be increased a lot. Obviously it will cause constipation, that is there always with morphine. It will cause shallow and occasional breathing, because it is causing respiratory depression. It will cause shallow breathing. It can cause nausea and vomiting. It can decrease BP, sometimes leads to shock. Okay? If BP decreases too much, it will lead to shock and respiratory failure. That is why you need to keep monitoring the dose of morphine that is being given to a patient. Okay, any excessive dose and the patient will immediately go into respiratory failure. If the patient is going into respiratory failure, immediately give, how you treat as you give respiratory support. You try to maintain their BP by giving vasoconstrictors and IV fluids, and you perform gastric lavage using what you call potassium permanganate. Okay, you KMNO4 use karte, and you give a specific antidote which is naloxone. You give around 0. In case of poisoning, just write it down. In case of poisoning, naloxone 0.4 to 0.8 and 8 mg, okay, be careful, mg IV. You give repeatedly for every 2 to 3 minutes. ठीक है, इतना देते till respiration picks up. ठीक है, every, yeah, I'll write it this way, repeated every 2 to 3 minutes till respiration picks up. When till the patient starts breathing normally, you have to keep giving this naloxone. All right, sometimes naltrexone can also be used. So this is about morphine. We'll continue with the synthetic ones tomorrow. I'll take your attendance. A little bit is left in analgesics, opioid analgesics, then we can start NSAIDs.